Getting to the heart of the matter. Back to Guy, Ben, and Frank with more Inside the News.
Welcome back to our third segment of Inside the News. Glad to have you with us. This is our election trail segment. Guy Wehman here, along with Ben Brunson. He's at the bottom, and then we've got Frank Vernuccio. He's in the top left of your screen. Okay, Frank, let's talk about the election trail here, the Biden basement campaign. He thinks he can run on it, and they think that he's actually the winner of everything, and he's topping the polls. I think that's going to be the same polls that Hillary was watching. They're going to have this fake illusion within their own minds that they're winning and everything's going to be going great. And what's going to happen is November 3rd, it's going to crash and burn again. They're going to say, how did this happen? We were winning. What do you think about that, Frank?
Well, the Biden bid to become the nominee of the Democratic Party just got a boost this week. In New York State, the man considered the possible substitute for Joe Biden took a serious hit. Governor Andrew Cuomo made a decision to put COVID patients in nursing homes throughout New York State. That resulted in thousands upon thousands of deaths of elderly patients in those nursing homes. The press has not been quite as severe on him as they perhaps should have been, but certainly it's taken the glow off the potential Cuomo candidacy. That's a real boost for Joe Biden. Going forward, though, Biden still has to emerge from the basement. Clearly, I think he's becoming somewhat an object of ridicule, even among the Democrats, for failing to be any place except that basement.
But you know what? He's safe down there, isn't he, Frank?
Personal safety is not the attribute I think that most Americans.
No, I mean, he's safe from himself.
In their presidential candidates.
Yeah,
I think that one of the political geniuses that President Trump has exhibited is his fight against his own advisors to get out of the White House and to go to various places. I think that plays well with the voters. And I think Joe Biden hiding out in the basement is going to be a blow to his candidacy. The same way I think that one of the most serious blows that Nancy Pelosi has had is her refusal to come to Washington on a timely basis and to engage in what she's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you nailed it there with Nancy Pelosi. You know what is also interesting here, Ben, is the fact that Biden might be doing what he's doing, but Trump is kind of modifying his press conferences as well. He's listening to some of his advisors. He's watching what has been happening, and he's not afraid to cut off his answers because he's gone on these long diatribes, and it's like he needed to just be quiet. And then even just recently here, if he doesn't like it, he can just say, I'm over, I'm done, and he walks out. And this is actually a good thing for Trump.
Well, I think it is. Discipline has always been the one thing that a word typically not used to describe Donald Trump. Message discipline, he tends to go off on tangents, and it becomes a free flow of thought experiment. And that's got him into a lot of trouble. He has said things he clearly regrets, and he's paid the price in some of the polling. And there's no question that his advisors tell him, look, try to stick to the script as much as possible. You do well when you do that. He does particularly well in the big campaign events where he has a theme that is laid out for him. I don't think he reads from a teleprompter, but he does follow a theme, the bullet points that are set out for him, and he's figured out what works to get a crowd of 20,000 excited, and he does that very well. But some of these press conferences where he goes off the cuff and extemporaneously gives his theories on different things, like the using disinfectants, these have not been good for him at all. So look, these are temporary issues. On Biden, on the other hand, you have to wonder, it is such an amateur hour watching his campaign, why he is broadcasting out of a basement or out of a home that has one of the worst internet connections I've ever seen. He's like he's on DSL dial-up service or something. Why can't they take him to a local professional production studio? There have got to be ones that are close to where he is who would love to have him own their facility for the duration of his campaign. Why doesn't he broadcast out of there? I just don't understand a lot of the decisions being made by his campaign. It just seems like it is absolutely amateurish from A to Z.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know something, Frank? Kayleigh McEnany, she has actually now become the press secretary, and she's done a couple pressers now. And she's brought a reasonable sense of stability, a sense of calm. And I see that the reporters asking her the questions, they actually do respect her, and they don't try and talk over her like is what has been happening with Trump. Have you noticed that too, Frank?
Very much so. In fact, if you look at the last couple of press conferences, she mixes a combination of a calm demeanor, but also not taking, frankly, any garbage from the reporters. She's been blunt, she's been matter of fact, and she's been unemotional about it. Now, President Trump has done pretty much the same thing, but he seems to have a flash of emotion that doesn't particularly play well. Of course, they've played a little rougher with President Trump than they have with his press secretary.
Yeah, there was a presser earlier this week where a Chinese reporter or someone of Oriental descent, we'll say, working for the Washington Post, tried to talk about the virus, and Trump just says it's from China. Then at that point, she takes off her mask, and you can tell who she is and everything. And she says, "Are you talking to me?" And that was clearly trying to be a gotcha moment, wasn't it, Frank?
It certainly was. I don't think it played particularly well. It seems that one of the missteps the Democrats are making is early on, they've tried to portray Donald Trump as being xenophobic against China. I think what the Democrats don't realize is that Americans are royally ticked off at China, and accusing Trump of being rough on China is actually a plus, not a minus.
Yes. Okay, Ben, Pelosi's stimulus plan. She wants to now take us for another $1.2 trillion. What do you think of that?
Well, she's announced very publicly that she is writing the plan with the Democratic Party with zero input from the White House and apparently zero input from Senate Republicans. So this strikes me as nothing but a campaign platform piece of legislation where they're going to throw in every liberal funding project they can, look for tons of money to Planned Parenthood and all sorts of liberal icons that have to be funded to be seriously, for the Democratic Party to be taken seriously and pay back its political base. So it's not going to go anywhere. It's interesting. But again, I think this has gone from reacting to the crisis. I think we've seen largely the reaction, the federal aid that we're going to see. It's been a lot of money spent. The Fed is pulling all punches. They're using everything in their arsenal. They're flooding all the markets with liquidity all over the United States and the world, frankly. So the federal government has done what it can do at this point. The key is reopening the economy, and I think there's a recognition in Washington that another plan might be good if you can find common ground. Infrastructure is the only common ground I can see next. But the Democrats have said, well, the heck with that. We're just going to start campaigning now going forward. And that's what you see coming out of Pelosi.
All right. This is Inside the News. Glad to have you with us. We're going to be coming up. We're going to be talking about America reopening and the differences between state A, B, or C and the rest of the country, or maybe within the state itself. And even Tesla says saying, we're going to open our company. We want to get this thing going. And that has kind of caused a little bit of upheaval in California. Tell you what, we're going to take a time out. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.